So I want to start by really delving into the real meaning of determination. But before I do that, I just want to briefly share what it means to me on a personal level. Because I think it's really important when we do these deep topics, as a group, to become a little bit vulnerable and, make it as personal as possible. So I'll share and then I'll defer to Mohit to also add to the conversation.
Sure.
So determination to me is something that let's just put it this way. I've had a very challenging life where I don't know, whatever my karma has been, but since my childhood, it feels like I've had to endure roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. I've fallen into really deep holes and had to dig myself out, only to fall into a deeper hole, it seemed like. Quick recap. I was born and raised in ISKCON, and in a way that was a deep hole for me because, in all, openness, I didn't have a great experience in my childhood. And so I was constantly struggling, not only in my, let's just say in my concept of spirituality and life, but also materially. I was raised in a family where they didn't value education necessarily because they didn't feel like it was important. Spiritual life was more important than the material facet. So they pulled me out of school my parents pulled me out of school when I was about 12. You can imagine that. I'm sorry, 13. And so I never went to 8th grade, never went to 9th grade. So it was a real big challenge for me because I actually valued education. I was very studious and I was doing well in my studies, and so this was kind of like pulling the rug from under my feet. And so all that to say is I skipped 2 years, and then eventually I had a rift with my parents wherein they abandoned me, but I was in a place where I was able to continue my education. I actually had to divorce my parents so I could continue my education, and you can imagine that. I had to make up 2 years of lost education in a matter of a couple months, and then pull myself through high school on my own while working a full-time job. And then, so if you want to talk about determination, I can illustrate the material aspects, and then I can delve into the spiritual aspects of, where I've had to find determination in, very dark places, which is that, with all these experiences that I went through in my teenage life, I didn't have a very, let's just say I didn't have a good relationship with my spiritual practice, and inside of me, I always had this deep-rooted, let's just say, attachment to Krishna, and knowing that, God is there, God is, with me. There's a reason why I'm not dead and I'm still alive. He wants something out of me, and I have a higher purpose. So, fast forward to today, I'm 49 years old. I still feels like every day is a challenge. So I don't want to, let's just say, I'm not telling you the story to discourage you, because this is actually a very motivational story in a sense, because today I feel more determined than before. But the concept of determination, as I was, sharing earlier, is one that stays with you for the rest of your life, and you have to find it every day. So I'm going to pass it on to Mohit real quick to see if he has anything to share on determination.
Oh, wow.
You understand?
Yeah, sure. Whoa, she's determined. Okay, yeah, I mean, I didn't realize she was going to be so vulnerable with her story, but as she was saying her story, I'm sure you guys can relate. Like, yeah, I remember those feelings, right? Whatever challenges that you've gone through, we've all gone through some challenges in our lives already. And so you can kind of, her story kind of resonates with you, and puts you back in that mode of, oh, what did I have to do? So now what she's gonna do today and what we're gonna do today is we're gonna take that process, and you're gonna go back into times when you were struggling and you had to really thought you were determined, and try to see if there's a systematic manner that you followed in order to be determined. Because there is, just like in spiritual life, there's a systematic manner in order for us to become self-realized, right? It's not just random that we're gonna be here and all of a sudden I'm gonna get lucky, right? Or let's put it this way, say I wanna be rich, I wanna be a millionaire. One aspect is I'm gonna buy lottery tickets every day. Okay, that's one way to do it. The other way is you're gonna read a book on, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the book Millionaire Next Door, but that book lays out a systematic path for you to become a millionaire over a course of time with certain disciplines and determination to get to your goal, right? And so it's the same kind of concept, is we're gonna take this esoteric topic like determination, and we're gonna try to put specific steps that we can incorporate in our lives. So after we start incorporating some of these features in our lives, we can also become determined both materially, but obviously this is VBS, and also spiritually. So that's the first section I wanted to say. I'm not going to be vulnerable. And then the second piece is, I think I started the semester and we delved into how spiritual practices that we do also translate into material success. And now Rasa is going to end with the same type of thing, which is, hey, these spiritual practices of determination automatically help us achieve our material pursuits as well. So I think that's a nice little correlation or bookends, if you will, and we'll get right into it.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. So determination at the end of the day is a choice. It's a deliberate choice, meaning that you make a concerted, you think about it deeply, and you decide that you're going to do something. So it's not something that's just like, oh, I'm determined, I have a lot of willpower, I can, outlast this, or I can, power on, as they say. It's about making a choice and sticking with it based on having a goal and having a clear objective of achieving that goal, and kind of finding the path. Like it's really something that's not just like, made up one day, like, oh, today I'm going to be determined, I wake up, I'm going to be determined. No, it's a lifelong journey. So one of the things that I wanted to emphasize is that it's not something that is an intense moment, like, oh, I'm just going to be determined through this one project or through this one day or through this exam that's coming up. It's about consistency. That's the only way that you can build determination. And
Rasa, so basically you're saying is you'll be able to take this template of determination and apply it to different aspects.
Yeah, and I'm gonna delve deeper into all those aspects, but it really comes from, an inner strength. And that's, I think, the key to this talk today, is that determination is not random, right? There's all these aspects to it, but it comes from a deeper place. It comes from, an inner space. And if you take that from the everyday and also, transfer it over to more of that spiritualist journey that we've been talking about this whole semester, it's really about aligning your heart with, your purpose and finding in yourself what that ultimate purpose of your life is. And, a lot of times that means fixing your mind, fixing your life around achieving that purpose, which is, to be aligned with Krishna or God and to act on it. So why does it really matter to be determined, right? Because you can be like, well, if I just practice, everything's going to come. Determination is going to come as I practice, right? As an example, if you're going to class every day or you're going to work every day, you might think that I don't need determination. I'm in this habit, so, I'm fine. That's not true, because you're always going to run into challenges. You're always going to run into situations where, more is expected of you. And frankly speaking, I face this every day. every day my boundaries are tested. Every day in my job. And so, I look at it from the standpoint of every day I'm being tested. How much do I want this? How much do I want Krishna? How much do I want, to, let's just say, reach my goal of improving myself and coming to this spiritual place where I can finally find myself and be aligned and in a relationship with God. So it's really about steadfastness. And I took this quote from Srila Prabhupada: unless one is determined, he cannot progress. And that's obviously across the board, but also spiritually. So you have to really align your efforts. So it's not that you're working harder when you're determined, but you're fully aligned. So it starts with that compass of, being purposeful and it being a goal that really motivates you. And resilience is another one. So building that muscle. So training that muscle is, really important. So all these aspects of having resilience, having alignment, seeing obstacles as opportunities, that's why determination matters. And that's why you need to work on achieving determination and improving your determination every day. So the compass, right? You can only be really determined if you really want something. So you have to have really strong purpose, and it has to be meaningful. Do you guys have any strong purposes in your life today that you find a lot of meaning around? Anybody? Nobody feels like they have meaning, something that drives them every day? Not yet? 2 people, okay. Anybody want to share?
Just to enjoy life and celebrate it.
To celebrate life,
Stay happy.
enjoy it. Okay. That's a good purpose. So do you have any meaning around that? What's the meaning of enjoying life?
Meaning, right? I mean, whatever I
How does that
imagine,
make you determined? Like, what is the meaning behind it that makes you determined to enjoy life?
Could you please repeat the question?
So what I'm saying is that in order to be determined, you have to have a strong purpose with meaning behind it. So that, when push comes to shove, nothing's going to deter you. Right? So my question is, what about, finding or enjoying life or finding that happiness?
Right, so if I can jump in. So your goal that is very, very important to you, right? To enjoy life. Rasa's saying you're going to be able to withstand the challenges that you're going to have against that goal as you go into life. Like, for example, you're going to have work, you're going to have children, family, all these things that are going to suck your energy, where it's going to be harder for you to maybe reach your goal. So what Rasa's point is, if you take your goal and align it with a higher purpose, then you become more, let's say, stronger or unflappable to reaching your goals as other distractions come into your life. Does that make sense? So like if your goal is to become, be happy in life, it's a worthwhile goal. But Rasa's point is, hey, let's align it with a bigger purpose so then we can take that, so then you can withstand some of the challenges that is going to come your way. Yeah?
So the idea is that you want to anchor your goals in, very meaningful truths that matter to you. So something that's deep, basically part of your core, and it can be a very private thing. But to have that as your anchor is very important, because otherwise you won't ever find that inner strength, if you will, to really keep going. And your faith can become weak weakened at times. We'll talk about that in a second. The other really important principle around knowing your why to stay determined is to work from your natural strengths. So meaning that everyone's blessed with particular proclivities and propensities. So don't basically choose determinations that are not aligned with who you are, because it's going to be harder to build a path forward, right? So in a way, it's almost like effortless effort. When you are determined around a goal that aligns with who you are and your nature and your natural strengths, then it's really a more natural fit, and it feels like you can make progress without it being such a let's just say a burden on who you are. Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Go
My
ahead.
favorite example is me. If I tried to do kirtan, it doesn't align with my natural proclivities. Okay? I'm not a musician at all. So that was probably not a good goal for me to set, because my determination will be lacking. Why? Because I'm no good at it.
Or
Right.
like me trying to be a stand-up comedian.
Right. Right. So number one, you have to align. You have to pick a goal that you have some natural inclination to receive, right? Because if we're good at something, we want to do it. And so that helps our determination. That's the main point here. So I may want to be a musician, but I'm going to have to come to the reality. Like, for example, I've been asking, this is a true story, right? Rish, I need to learn how to play kartals. He goes, come over, Prabhu, I'll teach you. And I haven't gone over there. Why? Because I didn't have the determination. Why? Because I don't have a natural instinct to it, right? I don't have the natural talent. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Just a question.
Yes.
Doesn't that contradict ambition? Like, if you're somebody who has ambition to learn music, regardless it's your true nature, but you still bring out determination to reach your ambition, versus even if it's in your nature and you want ambition, your determination.
Do you want to handle it? You want to handle it, Risha?
To this point, I want to add to Rasa Mataji's first point. I think she started it with alignment first. So if you say ambition is important and determination will last, but however, how much it lasts or how much it will break depends on how much it is aligned. So before we head on and add the ambition part to it, we should do what is it that we are aligned to first. And if our alignment is in line with our ambitions, then we don't have to work at all.
Beautiful.
Very
Keshav
nice
Maharaj.
answer, yeah.
Keshav Maharaj's favorite saying is, you can be anything that you want to be, or you can pursue to be the best that you were meant to be. So I think that's where your question becomes, right? Where's that ambition to pursue certain things versus what your natural instincts are to pursue, right? So you have to balance that. Life keeps telling us, the material world keeps telling us, you can do anything you want. Well, I'm not going to be the president of the United States. That's just a fact. Okay? So if I want to go that route, unfortunately, it's very, very low probabilities. But if I focus in on what my true purpose in my life is, so I spend time trying to figure out what I was meant to do, and then I devote my time, effort, determination, then I get to be what I was meant to be. Does that make sense? So there's a fine line between ambition and purpose.
And I also want to add to that point, since Prabhu said, he's not musically inclined, it doesn't change the fact that it's not possible. If he does practice every day, he keeps it consistent. He's like, I do kartal and he keeps doing, maybe 2 years, 3 years, just because.
Or longer.
Yeah.
Or longer. But that doesn't mean it is impossible. But then it's up to him how hard of a journey he wants.
Exactly. My determination may be affected because I don't have a natural proclivity towards that. But like Prabhu said, thank you, Prabhu, I still can become a musician if I truly keep at it. But then there's that contradiction. If I'm not determined, how am I going to stay the course for 4 years, right? That's what
This is a conversation, so feel free to contribute. But I was just going to add to that, if you're basically ambition to me is not coming from a place of introspection. It can be superficial in many ways. So like I remember when I was younger, I was very ambitious, right? And I don't, like now that I look back, I don't think my ambition was rooted in, let's just say, in a meaningful way. And that's why we started this talk about like determination needs to come from a meaningful place where you've done the introspection, which actually leads into this slide where we talk about how to find that path in determined path forward. So I'm going to start with a small little story, and it's the story of a wood chopper. I don't know if you guys have heard the story, but basically there is a wood chopper. He gets hired by a new company, and he wants to impress his boss. So he goes out the first day with his axe and he chops down like 25 trees, and he's like the star of, the whole wood chopping crew. Everyone's a little jealous, and he's coming in and everyone's like, wow, look at this guy, right? And so now he has a reputation to uphold, that he's already set the bar so high. So then he becomes determined. He's like, I'm going to keep up this reputation, so I'm going to chop 30 trees tomorrow, right? So he comes out the next day with his axe and like just works like a crazy man, chopping, and he's working really hard, and he chops another 25 trees, but he's not able to meet his goal. So he's like, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm gonna start earlier tomorrow and work longer. So I'm gonna, instead of working 8 hours, I'm gonna work 12 hours so I can chop my 30 trees. So he comes in early before everybody else and literally starts chopping, and he's working so hard, sweating and super tired, only chops 15 trees, and he's scratching his head. He doesn't know what to do, and he's like freaking out. So finally, by the fourth day, he again, pushes himself to the limit, chops trees. By midday, he's only chopped like 5 trees. He's completely exhausted, and he's losing all of his determination. And his boss, just walks by, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm working so hard, and not seeing the results. And his boss looks at him, and he's like, wait, did you take the time to sharpen your axe? Right? So the moral of the story is that to be determined is one thing. And that's why I, talking about the slide here, you have to have taken the time to sharpen your axe, to really understand what it is that you're about, what your natural, tendencies are, what is meaningful to you in life, and find that purpose, spend the time, and then you can build that path forward. So you have to have a narrow focus. Again, you have to be consistent, and there is a recipe for success. So if we delve into the spiritual realm, it's about consistency. It's about building great habits. It's about following that recipe, and being focused in your determination. And all this applies to every facet of your life. But as far as your spiritual side, we have all the equipment. We have the formula for success, and it's very easy, and it's very deliberate. Meaning that we have the holy books like the Gita that guide us. We have Guru, which is basically senior devotees that are very who've internalized the scriptures and can explain it to you and motivate and empower you to learn it. And then of course we have God from within, and we have Krishna, who is all merciful, supporting us as we build our journey together. And staying inspired is really, really important. So at the end of the day, there's so many different let's just say ways that we can build determination in our spiritual life. And then basically in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada's really, really distilled it down to basically, if you practice mantra meditation and chant every day, and you follow the principles of freedom, as we call it, then you will become, determined, and progress will be really easy.
Iris?
Yeah.
So ISKCON, you guys are all familiar with ISKCON India, obviously, right? They're so successful. Why? Why are they so successful as as a religious organization in terms of proliferation and bringing people to ISKCON in India? Why do you guys think? Yes, this is a legitimate question, right? It's been growing. It's the fastest growing religion in India. Why do you think it's happening with ISKCON vis-a-vis anything else? And in India, there's come on.
Discipline and consistency in their spiritual practices.
Yes, right? So this correlates directly with this determination, right? So if I'm a spiritual seeker and I'm like, okay, I'm going to become self-realized, I go sit in the Himalayas mountains by myself and, get my deer skin and I'm gonna sit and do it, right? That's one way. Or the other way is you can follow a proven recipe, right? That's the point. So the reason ISKCON has grown so much is because when spiritual seekers like yourselves meet a plan that's very digestible and can be followed, the determination is really strong to realize that. Whereas me going into the forest and going, okay, so did I make progress? Did I make progress? I don't have a path, right? That's the point. So can you go back one real quick? So all 4 of those points, by narrowing your focus, by following a recipe that's already been tried, being consistent, then being fundamental or fanatic.
Yes, small steps.
Yeah.
Rather than
And then and so those,
sprints.
yeah, exactly. So these components help us stay more determined. So whatever your goal is, whatever you're trying to do, if you can apply these principles, that will help you overcome the inevitable obstacles that you're going to face to reach that goal.
So another key component of staying determined is to make sure that you're basically avoiding anything that's detrimental to your progress and celebrating all of the small wins and all of the big wins around your progress. So basically, I like this so much that I put it in here, but saying no is really important, and there's a lot of power to saying no to distractions. We live in a world today, as you all know, with AI, with social media especially, and I know this for a fact because I work in consumer products, and we do a lot of social media marketing. So then I have to work, so I go on my social media feed, and the next thing I know, I get sucked in on distracted, right? So the point of it is there's so much distractions that you have to sort of again center yourself and focus. And so all that to say is you have to really focus on the fact that if you have a goal and you're determined to get to that goal, then you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself from distractions, from people that distract you, from situations that distract you, which is why it's really nice to create a do not do list. Have you guys heard of that? There's always like a to-do list, but I think it would be a really valuable exercise if during the break or when you get a free moment and you're spending some time introspecting, to just try it out. Write a do not do list for yourself. Like, what are the things that I really think are distracting me that I want to get rid of? What are things that I want to cycle out of my life? And if you put that to a visual and actually write it, then it becomes an intention that you can also get determined around, right? So focusing on the do's, but also focusing on the do not do's are, equal parts of the equation. And then also being deliberate. So again, going back to determination is a choice. It's a deliberate choice. So, when progress is not linear, make a choice every day and celebrate your progress.
You want me to add something?
The next one?
Yeah.
So the next key input, very important point in staying determined is to build that muscle, endurance muscle. And in order to do that, it takes a lot of patience. So we were both young once. We used to work out, and he has more workout analogies than I do. But all that to say is that when you work out, you don't notice results right away, right? So that's where endurance comes in. It's like you're running, that marathon. It takes a ton of practice, which is why, so many quotes around determination are actually made by athletes. Because, it's blood, sweat, and tears. There's so many falls along the way. And, so patience is a key component. So realizing that transformation takes time. Whatever you're doing, whether it's becoming, successful athlete or, graduating or, being successful in your job, that's a form of transformation. Small transformations and big transformations, they all take time and practice, right? So understanding that it's like slow cooking and not like microwaving noodles. It's a great analogy, right? You're slow cooking, you're not microwaving. So you're not zapping things, you're, literally just simmering. So consistency, obviously, around that is key. But also, being graceful around the endurance. So not being hard on yourself, not being, let's just say, overly affected by the downs, realizing that, this world is full of the dualities, and that part of being determined is you're going to be tested along the way, right? What's a good journey without a good test, right? If you don't have challenges along the way, then your greatness will never truly be revealed. That's the way I look at it, right? That's a positive view. So if things were easy, you would never stretch yourself. If things were easy, people wouldn't take notice of, how much you've achieved. It's only when we go through a lot of adversity or we see a lot of challenges that we really fine tune, what we're doing, who we are, and, really sort of elevate ourselves to that next level. And overall, every slide repeats the same principle. Daily practice is how you become resilient. Daily practice is how you build endurance. And so again, going back to the spiritual example and the spiritualist journey, practicing daily is so important, because that's how you build that muscle to stay the course and find that inner strength to be, determined. So steadfastness in practice builds attachment to God. And at the end of the day, that's what powers you, that's what fuels your endurance.
So example would be a job search that you guys are doing right now. So to her point, how many have had just like a flowing, everything just worked out smooth? Right? So there's been challenges, right? There's been one obstacle after another. There's one, road that you're like, oh my God, this is it. And then you have to, that one closes and you have, so the point is you've had to adapt. And you may not notice it right now, but that adaptation, that your ability to adapt and change is actually what she's talking about in terms of you become, you gain skills that you didn't think you had because of those challenges. Does that make sense? Like in your job search, you guys are changing all the time. Like, ooh, I shouldn't try this approach. I should try that approach. Well, those are all building blocks to your success. Yeah, so that's one thing. Rasa, if I may. The second thing I would say is set small goals to build that resiliency. That's what she's talking about, the daily practice. right? So that's small goals that you set for yourself. Let me say this, everybody get up. Now, everybody get up. All right, so now, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do push-ups, okay? So when I say start, just see how
Everyone
many
hit the
push-ups you
ground.
guys can do. Okay, not really exciting, right? But what if I said, everybody do one push-up? That everybody can do. You're determined to do that one push-up, everybody sit down. The point is,
It's not gonna actually make it better.
right? So that's the point. Even with push-ups, if I say, hey, let's just do push-ups, how many do I gotta do? So your body, Krishna's made us so amazing, right? We automatically know what's gonna keep us aligned and determined if we know when it's gonna end. Right? So that's the daily sadhana.
Yes.
That's what it helps build. It's a small goal to ultimate prema for Krishna.
And also, I wanted to add that daily practice makes you understand that you're not alone. I think that's been like my biggest, let's say, takeaway from my daily practice, is it strengthens my resolve because I know I can do more because I'm not alone in it. And so all that to say is like, it's nice to be old in the sense that you can look back in your life and all the challenges that you've been through, and then you kind of see it with, like in hindsight, there's 20/20 vision. Have you guys heard of that, right? But you can kind of look at all of that, challenges you've gone through in your life and realize actually at the end of the day, how big of a deal you made of it at the time, but how small of a thing it was. And, how small of a blip was on this, let's just say if you look at your life in blocks of like 20 years, I know that's impossible for you guys to do right now because that's one block. But if you look at your life in blocks, maybe pick 3 years, right? The point is that you'll see that, oh my God, this was a small blip in the overall grand scheme of things. And I made such a big deal of it at the time. I felt like the world was coming to an end, but it's actually a small thing. So like I went through periods of time where I was job hunting for 4 months, sometimes for a year. I went to so many interviews, got so many rejections, felt terrible by myself, started doubting my abilities, all those things I went through. And then I went through periods of time where I had to like push people away, not return phone calls because, keep telling people I was not interested. So almost like, you go through like such crazy contrasts, and you realize that you're still the same person. It's not you that's changed. It's the fact that life is cyclical, and the biggest important thing is to anchor yourself and be determined around where you want to go. Okay? So the next really important principle, and I'm going to argue that this is probably the most important principle, is surround yourself or place yourself in a community or in a situation that builds strength and positivity and support to keep you determined. So align yourself with people, associate, as we say, with them. That means, build your life around people that are going to push you forward in your path, in your, and support your determination and not be a distraction like we were talking about earlier. So spiritual strength is something that you actually, it's like osmosis. I mean, this is a human reality, right? Osmosis is a thing, right? So if you surround yourself with successful people, your chances of becoming successful are increased. You surround yourself with people who have bad habits, you're going to pick up those bad habits, right? So it's just kind of like, it's almost like scientific in a sense that, it's action, reaction, very, very linear in that sense. So this is obviously not a secret, but, it's a really big deal to put yourself in an environment around people that motivate you to stay determined in your path. And also, part of that environment is to, again, the do not do list. Let go of the things that are not favorable to your practice, to, supporting you in becoming the person that you want to be. And then I mentioned this, you have to have that honest reflection, and introspect all throughout, the journey to stay determined, right? It's really important to ensure that, again, it's not about willpower, it's about having all the right ingredients, that recipe for success. And having, that support system, whether it's a person, whether it's your family, whether it's, friends, whether it's the, going to a temple, whether it's listening to, people that, motivate you on YouTube, or, it's really important to surround yourself with positive, positive reminders, positive reinforcements every day.
Now can I be vulnerable? Okay. So we sometimes we ask ourselves these questions like, hey, why does somebody ascend in spirituality so fast while it takes others so long, right? And we're kind of thinking, I'm like, how long is it going to take me, right? And so it's the power of association. So I chose to associate with people that are absolutely not conducive to spiritual life at all in my young life that you guys, when you guys were 8, right? And so it's no secret, right, that I have to work that much harder to get rid of all those impressions that I gained from the association I had in my teens and my 20s, even my 30s to some extent, right? And so the power of association, whereas conversely, you have Gopal, who's growing up in a Krishna conscious home, his association is going to actually assist him in his life, right? So that's the spiritual example. Same thing in terms of your materials. So you guys, people you want to associate with that will help you towards your goal, and people that will actually detract you, and not only that, will put doubts in your mind. So spirituality is a really key one, because not only are they going to be bad in terms of creating good habits for spiritual life, but they will start to put doubts in your mind along the way, and that could be a very big deterrent. So not only that they help, association is so key because it actually can elongate your time to get you a goal.
I'm just gonna add a caveat. So when you say association, we're not saying like stop talking to people, or get rid of your friends, nothing like that. It's all about where you spend your personal time.
Where's your heart?
Who are those people that you're open to being vulnerable around? Who are those people that you want to emulate, that you want to spend more time with? And so, like, I like this point: choose your spiritual family wisely. That's a really big one for me, because even so, we don't choose our families for good or worse, but you can, especially as adults, you can choose your family, right? You choose who you're going to be with, who your partner is going to be in life. You choose your friends, and specifically